Welcome to Turf Talk with Matt
and Casey.
Hey, we are in episode 17 of Turf Talk. It is August of 2022, and the weather has definitely made a change from what we looked at the previous time that we did this in the very beginning of July.
Definitely.
And we were going through a drought, a pretty good sized drought, and our customers were definitely seeing that.
Definitely, Matt. We went through about 3 weeks of really dry weather. We had some just sparse showers here and there. Soil moisture content got well below that 27% mark, where we see cool season grasses really start to go dormant. What we've seen over the last week and a half is that's kind of turned around. Temperatures are a little cooler. We're not seeing those 90-degree days. We've had a couple of really nice rain events where they've been almost all-day soakers.
Yeah.
Soil moisture is up over 28% now. So we're seeing that grass start to come back. So if your lawn was brown, it's probably starting to green up now. It's not going to look great. It's not going to be fabulous like it is in the spring, but you are going to see that greening up. And if weather holds, which I'm not going to predict that it will, you would definitely see some significant improvement. Don't expect any real significant improvement until fall.
You know, we were at the Midwest Regional Turf Foundation's Turf Day. It's held at Purdue at the Daniel Center, the Turf Center. And one of the professors was talking about how we're getting this rain and it's starting to green things up and the temperature's starting to cool down. And exactly what Casey said, like he reiterated, like we are still going to have plenty of 90 plus degree weather days. And yes, it's starting to rain again, but it is also going to go back into a period of little rain. I mean, this happens every year with their historical data, is what they were presenting to us. So with that being said, that is the importance of getting some water on the lawn. Now, we also looked at some research that is being conducted at Purdue, and yes, the ideal is to water multiple times throughout the week, really deep. But they also showed a study that only watered one time a week, but really deep. So they got 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches of water on that lawn each week. So it could be Saturday morning, that you go out and you water your lawn. So it doesn't take a lot of time, but that one-time watering really made a massive difference. And it doesn't really take all that much time, typically, depending on how big your lawn is.
It'll definitely keep that lawn from going dormant. Now, are you going to keep the lawn very thick, green, and lush and not see any browning? Probably not. You're probably still going to see some stress. Not going to be as bad as if you didn't water and the lawn goes dormant.
And a lot of people think that we have some secret sauce here, that we put this fertilizer out and it's magically everything's going to be green. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Yes, you need the nutrition in the lawn, you need the weed control to help thicken, make the lawn thick, but at the end of the day, you still have to make sure the lawn is getting water. As
water
Casey
is
said.
the secret sauce, Matt. Without that water, the lawn can't uptake those nutrients. It's going to stop all of its metabolism, and it's going to shut down.
Yeah. So that's why it is very, very important. Now, will you see some change without watering? Yeah, you can see some change without watering. But if you commit to watering, you will see a massive difference. And one thing that we actually are looking into as something that we could potentially offer next year is a moisture manager type product. And it would go out, it would be in addition to your service. And it would be for people who know that they're not going to water very often. So we would put it out twice in the season, kind of a split application. And then you need to water essentially, like I think they said as low as once a month. Now, obviously the more you water, the better, but it holds that moisture in better. And they have seen great results with it. So we are going to get some more research on this before we bring it out to the public. But that is something that we are looking into to help in these type of situations.
We may run a beta test on that early next year, and just see what kind of results we get.
Yeah.
And any customers who might be interested in that, give us a shout. Again, it is a work in progress, so we're not making any promises as of yet. But if you are interested in something like that, give us a call, talk to us, let us know. Maybe we can get you on that list for the beta test and check it out.
Absolutely. So going into August, what round are we finishing? What round are we going into? What fertilizers are we using?
So we are wrapping up round 4, Matt. We're going into round 5. We'll be starting round 5 somewhere around the second week of August, just before we start aeration and overseeding. We're going to be using the same fertilizer that we used in round 4. It's a very good fertilizer for this time of year. It's not a huge dose of nitrogen, but it's enough to keep the lawn nice and green. High doses of nitrogen in 90 and 100 degree weather is not healthy for the lawn. You can definitely see some burning. We don't want to cause that in your lawn. We definitely want to keep the lawn green. So we're not going to use those high doses of nitrogen that we use in other times of the year.
So I want to cut you off kind of right there at that point. Is we have had technicians go out and knock on the door, and the customers are concerned that the fertilizer that we put out is going to burn their lawn. And that is why when you hire a smaller local firm that really takes pride in what we do, is that we change our fertilizers each round. So we're not putting out high doses of nitrogen when your lawn is really stressed.
Correct.
And so with that dialed down, it is safe to put on the lawn, and you actually want it. You want that nitrogen there, that slow release nitrogen, so when it starts getting some more water like it is right now, in the last couple weeks, it is there for that plant to take up and to actually make it look a lot better.
Absolutely. It's going to greatly increase the amount of comeback that you have from a rain event if you have that nitrogen available compared to if you do not have that in the soil waiting. And all of our fertilizers are, they're time release fertilizers, they're water activated. So if we put it down and it's dry, it's just going to sit there. It's going to wait for that water, whether it be a really heavy dew or a nice rain event. And once it has that water, it's going to start to break down and leach into that root zone and be available for uptake for that grass.
And so going into this round, you mentioned we're also going to be starting aeration and overseeding.
Correct.
When are we going to start? When are we going to start that?
We're looking at August 15th or shortly thereafter. It's going to be very weather dependent. So we're going to keep a very close eye on that. Looking at the forecast, Matt, what I've seen so far is over the next 7 to 10 days, we're going to be in this cooling trend that we've been in. We're going to have some cool, rainy weather, highs in the high 70s to low 80s. Mm-hmm. After that 10-day window, we're going to shoot right back up to 90 and 100 degree weather with very dry conditions for the foreseeable future. That's not really great for aeration because we do want that rain there. So we may stick with our plan that we had earlier on and start with customers who only have irrigation on their lawns and are actively using that irrigation so that we can make sure the seed we're putting out remains viable. It's not going to germinate and die off due to dry conditions. And then as we move into September, we see some cooler, rainier weather. Then we'll continue on with aeration and overseeding with customers who don't have access to irrigation, that may have more difficulty getting the hoses and sprinklers out and keeping that grass watered the way it needs to be.
Gotcha. And so we've kind of covered the fertilizer part. We've covered the seed part, or the aeration and overseeding part. Kind of to jump back a little bit, what type of weeds are we seeing, and what are we doing about weed control?
Sure, very much the same thing we were seeing in July. We're going to see crabgrass and foxtail and all kinds of grassy weeds are popping up. They love this hot, dry weather because right now the grass is stressed. Roots are kind of receding. It creates, especially if you're not watering or you're not watering enough, it creates an environment where these grassy weeds are really just going to thrive. Even with the pre-emergent that we put down, it's starting to hit that time frame where it's fading out. Things like allowing the soil to dry out really, really bad and crack. That breaks up that pre-emergent.
Yeah.
And everywhere that you have a crack is now an opening for that crabgrass to come in and take over around the edges of sidewalks and driveways, patios, anywhere in the lawn, especially if the lawn is very thin and it does crack and split, you're going to see grassy weed problems. Broadleaf weeds, we're looking at spurs, we're looking at thistle, we're looking at broadleaf plantain again, just like last time. We may be seeing some purslane, some viney kind of broadleaf weeds. If you have wild violets, they're probably doing pretty well right now because we haven't been able to touch those in a while, especially if you're watering the lawn. You know, basically, we're seeing all those summer broadleaf weeds.
And one thing also to mention is that weed control is a contact killer.
It's a contact killer, man.
So we can't prevent weeds until the weeds are present, and then when the weeds are present, then we can spray them.
Correct.
And then once those weeds are present and we've sprayed them, then that weed can die. But there's no such thing as a pre-emergent that just goes over the lawn and prevents any weed from ever growing.
I wish there was. It would make our job so much easier.
Absolutely.
Correct, Matt. The way we prevent weeds, first we eliminate the seeds that are in the lawn by spraying the weeds before they have the opportunity to go to seed. And then we keep that grass watered properly, mowed at the right height, fertilized so that it stays nice and thick, and just crowds those weeds out. When they do pop up, even if there is a seed that we missed or that was able to blow into the lawn, maybe from the neighbors, it's going to germinate, but it's going to be crowded out by that nice thick stand of grass.
Yeah.
It's not going to have the opportunity to take over.
And so now we've covered the lawn care portion. Let's move into pest control.
Sure.
We're still doing perimeter pest control and mosquitoes and flea and tick.
We are in between
where
rounds on flea and tick. The next one will come towards the end of round 5. Right now we are going to be finishing up round 4 of perimeter pest control and mosquito applications. On the mosquito front, we do have those mosquito traps that we talked about last time. When the technician comes around, you can expect to see a 5-gallon bucket on your property. It's going to have a green sticker on it so that you know it came from us. What that is, it's a mosquito trap. We're going to put some water in there, some organic material. There are no chemicals involved in this trap other than a glue trap that goes around the inside top of the trap. Everything is sealed up. The mosquitoes can get in, but your pets can't get into it. Your children probably are not going to be able to get into it unless they're a little older and can take it apart. You know, none of your local wildlife is going to get into this trap and become trapped and injured. It's got a nice little grate on top where really just bugs can get in there. And once the mosquitoes get in there, the female mosquitoes are looking for a place to lay their eggs. The water inside there is kind of attractive to that. So they're going to fly in. They're going to buzz around looking to get into that water. They can't get to it, so they're going to get stuck on the glue trap. And we're going to eliminate some of those female mosquitoes, which are the biter mosquitoes, from your environment. So hopefully we'll cut down on the number of mosquitoes in your local area.
And interesting that the female mosquito, to produce those eggs and larvae to hatch, they have to bite somebody or something that has blood. So the way that they actually hatch their eggs or larvae is they bite you, they get some blood, and that blood activates their ability to reproduce, and that is what allows them to put the larvae out. So yes, we are specifically targeting the female mosquitoes. They are the ones that in the mosquito population are the problem. Males are not going to bite you, but they are needed also, you know, in some of the reproduction, so we are going to target them as well. But the females are the main culprit of this.
Exactly, Matt. And like I said, that trap, the way it works, it's going to attract those female mosquitoes because that is going to look like a potential nesting site. So they've already bitten something, they've gotten that blood meal, they're using that protein to produce those eggs, and they're looking for a place to lay their eggs. Every female mosquito, I believe, lays up to like 10,000 eggs, in the thousands anyway.
That's a lot of mosquitoes.
That's a lot of mosquitoes that we could potentially be eliminating from your little local area. When I say local, I mean your backyard and maybe the surrounding yards.
Yeah. So that's all we have for the lawn care and pest control side, but I did want to address a few questions that we have gotten lately. One thing is that these aren't necessarily our customers. Our customers could definitely be them, but mainly it's other people that don't have lawn care companies or such, and they're asking somebody to come out at this time of the year and look at their property because something's going on. And sometimes this is the case, sometimes it's not the case, but we are seeing fungus.
Oh, definitely. Right now is a horrible time for fungus because, number one, The weather conditions are just perfect for fungus. We're seeing a lot of humidity. We're seeing high heat. We're seeing heavy dews at night oftenly. Excuse me. The fungus is just going wild right now. You add to that the fact that we've seen a lot of 85 plus degree days, so the lawn is very stressed, which makes it susceptible to disease, just like when you and I are stressed. We're not getting enough sleep, we're not getting enough exercise, we're not eating right. Our body becomes weak and more susceptible to colds and flus and other things. The grass is the same way. So that fungus is going to take advantage of that, and it's going to really set in. The difficult thing, Matt, is that because we have all of these stresses, we have all of these environmental issues, it can often be very difficult to precisely diagnose what's going on in the lawn, or it may be that there's a combination of things going on in the lawn that's going to make it very difficult to assess, what the specific problem is, or what the underlying problem is. The best solution right now is get on a fertilization program, start mowing the lawn as high as possible, 4 inches or 4.5 inches, whichever you're comfortable with, or as high as your mower will go. Make sure you're watering that lawn properly, and you're getting on that fertilizer program. Start feeding that lawn, boost its immunity, boost its health, so that later on we can, tackle some of those problems.
And that's one reason why we overseed with turf type tall fescue. Is tall fescue inherently in the characteristics of that seed variety has the least amount of fungus problems of the seeds. We see ryegrass has a really tough time, especially with the heat and the lack of water. You can just write that one off.
Pretty much, yeah, it's gone.
Bluegrass it has its spots. It takes a lot of maintenance to maintain bluegrass, but part of its problem is that it's very drought tolerant, and it gets like 10 times more diseases that tall fescue does.
It does.
It looks really good, but when we're trying to maintain a typical homeowner's property, tall fescue is by far the best option that you can have, because it's more drought resistant and it gets much less diseases. Mainly the only thing that you see is brown patch on tall fescue. Yeah. So do you have any other questions and concerns that you've had from customers or people calling in?
Yeah, with aeration coming up, we have had a lot of questions about that, and
shameless plug.
Just a couple of those that I wanted to go over. We had a customer write in. They are an existing customer, so they are on our fertilization and weed control program, asking about when we're going to do the aeration. We covered that. They also have a thatch problem. Now, thatch is that layer of grass clippings and organic debris that's kind of at the crown level of your stand of grass. It's organic material that is in the process of breaking down, and when it doesn't break down fast enough, it builds up, and that's what we call thatch. The question was, I have a thatch problem. Are you guys able to take care of that? The answer to that question is technically no. We don't do any dethatching. Dethatching is very harsh on the lawn, and you're going into a time that the lawn's already stressed. If you're going to dethatch your lawn, I recommend doing it early spring. That way the grass has plenty of opportunity and the right conditions to really recover quickly. Fall is a horrible time, or late summer is a horrible time to dethatch your lawn.
But you'd probably have to do that yourself.
You are going to have to do that yourself.
I don't know any company, and I know a lot of the companies in the area, but I don't know any company personally in the area that does dethatching.
It used to be a big thing, Matt. 10, 15 years ago, everybody was out there with a dethatcher, and
but it takes a long time.
They were going out destroying lawns, and the science behind it is, unless it's really bad thatch that's creating growth problems in the lawn, you don't need a dethatching. What you're doing is you're removing organic material that's going to break down into compost and be beneficial to your lawn. You're removing that and taking it away. What you really need to do is look at some kind of lawn renovation application like liquid aeration. Something that's going to help boost the organics in the lawn. Apply some humic acid that's going to help break down that organic material. It's going to stimulate the biotic activity that's going to break that stuff down into compost. So that's my recommendation there. Again, if you do have a thatch problem that you think needs taken care of, you absolutely want it done, go grab you a rake out of the garage. Give it a light raking. Don't remove all that material, just loosen it up, take off whatever comes up with the rake. Make sure you're not tearing up the grass too much. The next thing is the customer that had questions said that they had also bought some seed. It's a cool season grass seed, they say, but it's not the seed that we purchased. They want to know if we'll apply their seed. Again, the answer to that question is no. Because we budget for these customers, we want to make sure that every customer is getting the same product, everything is uniform and quality across the board. We don't know what's in that bag of grass seed that you might have bought at Lowe's or Home Depot. A lot of them contain noxious weeds and fillers and other things, coatings that are going to take away from the value of that application.
Yep.
We want to make sure that we're putting down a high quality seed. We're putting it down at the right application rate so that you do see those good results. So we will not use your seed to overseed your lawn when we do the aeration. You're more than welcome to not sign up for the seeding and spread that seed yourself after we come out and aerate. I don't recommend that, but it's always a viable opportunity for you to do.
And one of the hard parts also is if we do the seeding and if we do the aerating and then you do the seeding, one of the hard parts is that it's probably not going down at the right amount.
That's a possibility.
There's a good chance that you don't have enough, and so you make the spreader setting a lot less. There's a good chance that you don't know how to calibrate the machine that's actually going to be doing the seeding. So there's just a lot of variables that, and we don't know what that seed is.
Right.
And then when even if we were to do that, one, we would have to coordinate to make sure that we had the seed, and it's not just left outside and has dew on it and everything, because once dew gets on the seed, then it could gunk up our machines. We would also have to recalibrate our machine for every single customer who went out and bought grass seed, because all grass seeds are different sizes and weights. It's just a litany of problems that would come into if we started using customer seed.
Correct, yeah, and we wouldn't be able to guarantee that application anyway.
And the last thing you want to do is when we put seed out, to go ahead and put more seed on top of it.
Right.
Because more seed is not better. That's definitely not the case.
No, there's definitely a limit to the amount of seed that you want to put down, because what will happen is that stuff will germinate, and if you have too much grass seed there, it's competing for nutrients, it's competing for moisture, it's competing for space, and if it doesn't starve itself out, it's going to be so thick that there's not going to be any air movement in there. You're going to see fungus problems. You're going to see roots intertwining and choking themselves out. And you're going to see more problems with too much grass seed than you would have with no grass seed at all.
And now when you put too much grass seed down, it looks great for the first month.
Yeah, about that long.
It'll all spread out, come up, and you'll be like, holy moly, this is great.
It's thick.
But then when that grass plant actually matures and the crown and moves out and it's got a bigger canopy, it all just outcompetes itself. And typically about a year later, we get a call back from those people and their yard is totally dead.
Yep.
There is no grass left.
Yeah, it just chokes itself out.
Yeah.
The third question this customer had, will aeration help with dethatching the lawn? Now technically, aeration is not going to dethatch your lawn. What aeration is going to do is it's going to pop holes through that thatch layer. It's going to allow oxygen down into that root zone level where you've got that biotic activity going on that's breaking down some of that thatch and turning it into compost. And once you get that oxygen in there, you're going to speed up that process of chemical breakdown or organic breakdown, and you're going to see that thatch layer is going to reduce. Now, is it going to take all the thatch away? No, you really don't want to. It helps conserve moisture at certain levels. At certain levels, it can become hydrophobic and prevent moisture. Then you would want to consider that dethatching or breaking out the rake and loosening it up. But aeration would definitely help to alleviate some of the problems that heavy thatch can create.
So is that it? Do you have any other questions?
That's all I have, Matt. Do you have anything?
That's it.
All right.
That's it for Turf Talk, episode 17, August 2022. We are getting ready for aeration season. We're going to start pulling out all of our equipment to make sure that it is ready to go, because we have a 6 to 8 week window to get everyone done and to get all the aerations done. The season is here. We've been preparing for this all year, getting the weeds under control and making sure there's nutrients in the lawn, so when we put that seed in, it is ready to go. If you do have any heavy acidic areas, you would see mainly from moss. You'd see a lot of moss or underneath pine trees or around pine trees. Pine needles have a lot of acid in them. So when they fall, it gets into the soil. So some of those conditions you may see, and you may need a lime treatment here and there. We don't do a lot of them, but we'll do 10 to 15 each season. If you have anything like that, make sure that we know that, so then we can adjust what's going on your property. But other than that, we will see you in the next one.
See you on the lawn.